more than a routine ambulance run, but that's not the way it ended up. Just as it was about to land at McCloskey Field at Duquesne University, Flight Helicopter malfunctioned, and the pilot lost control. Before putting the chopper down, its blade struck the side of a building. 5 people were aboard when it happened, including a patient en route to Mercy Hospital, but fortunately, no one was hurt.
No one hurt. Everyone walked away from it. It was a controlled landing. It was just a mechanical failure, and that's all it was. And we transported the patient. The patient's in good shape.
The pilot reacted according to his procedure and was able to set the helicopter down with the result that although there was damage to the helicopter, there were no injuries to the patient or the crew. We've been flying for 5 years now, and this is only the second time we've had an incident like this. We've not had an incident yet involving injury.
The chopper will have to be out of commission for a while for repairs, but the place that leases the chopper has 2 others that can be used by Life Flight Services. There's been no estimate of damage, but each one of those helicopters is worth $250,000.
Angel 1 helicopter went into service in 1984. This is the first crash. The damaged carrier was taken to the Allegheny County Airport in a tractor-trailer. The Federal Aviation Agency is investigating the accident. Corporate Jets owns the chopper, but would not allow us to take pictures of it. Back at Mercy, officials say their aircraft is checked every 100 hours. The chopper that crashed this morning was checked Thursday. Brent Waters, Channel 11 News at Mercy Hospital.
Tonight, investigators may be closer to part of this fence. It was about 1:30 in the morning. The crew took off in a helicopter slightly larger than this one. They were going to pick up a patient at a Brownsville hospital. They got about 5 or 10 feet above this landing pod and apparently lost power. It's a moment that paramedic Roy Cox won't soon forget.
The pilot yelled, "We're going down."
Cox is resting today at his Lincoln Place home after suffering cuts, bruises, and neck and back injuries. But there was a moment when he thought it would be a lot worse.
Being crushed, the fire, being a paramedic, I've seen a lot of problems and accidents and end results.
Dr. Stephen White is back at work tonight in the West Penn emergency room despite the cuts he suffered in the crash, and he's glad to be alive and working.
They tell you that you can survive helicopter crashes, but you just have something in the back of your mind that you could die in this.
Both White and Cox give a lot of credit to pilot Robert Cowell.
This pilot did his job. He got us down safely. Nobody got hurt badly. He reacted.
The helicopter is owned by Corporate Jets Incorporated. They've locked it up in this hangar at the Allegheny County Airport and refused to allow Eyewitness News to see it. A hospital spokesperson doesn't know the cause of the crash yet. The FAA is investigating. But everyone agrees it could have been a much worse crash. A few more feet and the chopper would have hit traffic. A few more feet and it would have hit the...
From the hospital early this morning. Angel 1, operated by the Specialized Treatment and Transport System, was on its way to Brownsville to pick up a patient when it crashed on the lawn of Mercy Hospital at 1:23 a.m. The pilot, the doctor, and a paramedic on board suffered minor injuries, although the scare left them all shaken.
The cause is still under investigation with the FAA, but it seems to have been a power loss shortly after lifting off the pad here. After the crash, the pilot assisted both the physician and the transport specialist out of the aircraft, then got out of the aircraft himself. The pilot and physician were able to walk down the hill to the emergency department, and Pittsburgh paramedics took Roy Cox, the transport specialist, by ambulance to the emergency department here.
It was the first crash the service has had since going into business back in February 1984.
Brinson next.
With Bill Dawson, Jim Brinson with sports, and Tim Earle with the weather outside. Now, Channel 11 News.
Good evening. Tonight, 3 people are very lucky to be alive after a helicopter crash near Mercy Hospital early this morning. The hospital's emergency helicopter, Angel 1, was making a routine 10-minute flight to Brownsville General Hospital about 1:30 when suddenly it lost power right after takeoff and crashed just a few yards from the Boulevard of the Allies. Pilot Robert Cowell, Dr. Stephen White, and transport specialist Ray Cox were all treated for minor injuries.
They were all seen and released from Mercy's emergency department, and they're all in their homes now. They're fine.
This was the first crash involving a Mercy helicopter since they began air service last year. The damaged chopper was taken to Allegheny County Airport, where investigators will try to determine...
The helicopter of 1983 that Life Flight, the city's only air ambulance service at the time, saw one of its helicopters crash onto the soccer field at Duquesne University. 4 people managed to escape injury in that crash, which was apparently caused by a defective tail motor. And earlier that same year, a Lifeline vehicle crashed in the McKees Rocks area. No injuries, but at least $160,000 in damages. Meanwhile, traffic on the ground and some helicopters are too close for comfort. Stay with us. Getting crowded, and that has made things a bit too dangerous in the opinion of some city officials.
Sally, the problem concerns helicopters. Lots of them, windy conditions, and tall buildings. All factors that may have contributed to 3 chopper crashes in the city in less than 2 years. And as Jack Salvatore tells us tonight, at least one city official thinks that's 3 too many.
It's a tragedy waiting to happen.
What Zoning Board Chairman Joe Mystic is talking about are these helicopters landing and taking off from helipads scattered all over the city. On July 7th, the tragedy he worries about nearly came to pass when 3 people were injured in a crash at the Mercy Hospital helipad. But despite that near tragedy at Mercy Hospital, it is the helipad at another city hospital that Mystic says has him even more concerned. Those are the helipads here at Allegheny General Hospital on the city's north side.
The Commission is very concerned, primarily in regard to the Allegheny General Hospital service, which at times flies over Martin Luther King Elementary School on the north side. That particular situation is one that gives us a great deal of concern because of the possibility of a helicopter crash in the school.
It's very much an issue of school safety. It's not against medical use of helicopters.
This man agrees that the proximity of the Martin Luther King School makes life flight a potentially more serious hazard. He lives about a half mile from the hospital. Not close enough for him to be concerned about a crash at his house, but for a better reason.
Now I have one daughter in the school, and I'll have another daughter in the school in another 4 or 5 years' time. And if something went wrong, maybe not today, maybe not this year, if something went wrong in 50 years' time, you could wipe out in 1 minute all the lives that have been saved by people being taken into Allegheny General's trauma unit.
The man who coordinates the Life Flight program says he understands those concerns, but he maintains there is nothing to be worried about.
We don't feel they're in danger. We've been doing this for 7 years now. We've never had an incident in the neighborhood. We've taken a number of precautions to guard against accidents, and we feel we have a safe operation.
Jack Salvatore, Channel 4 Action News.
Is concerned.
Extremely worried, Don, and rightfully so. It took 15 years of careful planning and rigid regulations to get Mercy's heliport. If it's moved, as the city is considering, doctors say it would endanger the very people they're trying to save.
There's no doubt that moving a site away from the hospital or the hospitals in general would kill some patients.
It defeats the medical system. It would be the same as putting a lock on the operating room door.
On the left, Stats Angel 1, in service 1984. On the right, Allegheny General's Life Flight, in service 1978. Each year, when minutes count to save life, they transport nearly 2,400 severely injured and critically ill patients to hospitals and trauma centers.
Go ahead. Push a little harder. Press.
And one cannot spend any minute that you don't have to spend getting them to the kind of care they need.
But there's a chance that could happen.
We feel there's a tragedy waiting to happen over there.
Zoning Commissioner Joseph Mystic talks of Angel 1's recent crash near its Mercy Hospital helipad. Now the city wants to move the pad away from neighborhoods and hospitals to a river site. It would mean flying to a pad on the river, then transferring critically ill patients to an ambulance for a possibly time-consuming ride to hospital.
A good percentage of those are so precarious, so sick, that to delay another 15 to 20 minutes, up to 30 minutes, depending on the traffic, would be really jeopardizing, I would say, half of those patients.
It's not just Mercy's helipad that could be moved.
The Commission is very concerned, primarily in regard to the Allegheny General Hospital service, which at times flies over Martin Luther King Elementary School on the north side.
Life Flight Director Fred Peterson says Mystic is wrong.
Our FAA-approved approach and departure path takes us south off the helipad and then there's a hard east turn made over hospital property, which then takes us over the Cedar Street Park. We're quite a distance from the school building itself, and we're actually outside the boundary of the play yard to the east of the school.
To move Allegheny's helipad would cause problems not only for patients, but the highly skilled flight crews who care for them.
They must maintain their intubation skills, that is, putting in airways, starting IVs, and doing things like that. You can't do that in a laboratory. You can't do it in an off-site airport, and you can't do it in a barge in the river.
There is no question that critical patients need what medical helicopter transports can give: rapid delivery to life-saving care. While there is risk, one thing no one can argue: 3 crashes over 7 years have brought no injuries, no fires, or property damage.
The helicopter is a delicate medical instrument. It needs, therefore, to be judged in medical terms. And we can do that without throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, because there is an added risk, we must dispense and completely eliminate that risk.
Public hearings on the matter are expected in September. Those involved will be there to urge city officials to leave the heliports where they stand. For the critically ill and the severely injured, doctors say it's really a matter of life and death.
I can't imagine putting a helipad on the river, taking the patient from the helicopter to an ambulance, then to the parkway.
Well, you can imagine. Now, imagine the parkway. It's always under construction, and the jams that get there, and trying to get a critically ill or severely injured patient to any hospital.
Yeah.
One of the things that I didn't bring out is that rapid transport helicopters save 85 to 90% of the patients that they transport. Without those helicopters, a lot of those patients are going to die.
Indeed. Okay, thank you, Marilyn. When we come back...
Good evening. It started out as an innocent afternoon canoe excursion. 3 boys on Chartiers Creek in Upper St. Clair.
Almost, Paul, like something out of Huckleberry Finn, but not quite. When it was all over, armies of volunteers, firemen, paramedics, and other rescue workers from Upper St. Clair and surrounding areas were involved in a massive rescue attempt. Pittsburgh paramedics, even Lifeline from Allegheny General Hospital, were also called to the scene, all to rescue 3 boys trapped on a small island in Chartiers Creek when their canoe capsized. When it was all over, the rescue efforts were tougher on the rescuers than the rescued. Sally Wiggin has more in the story.
You get them right in the squad over here.
This is Jack Best. After standing in the cold, waist-high creek water for over an hour and a half, the chief of the Upper St. Clair Fire Department was the only rescuer who was taken to the hospital, where he was treated for exposure. But others clambered up the creek bank, trembling from having been immobile in the rain-swollen creek for too long. This had started around 4:15 this afternoon, when John Fitzpatrick called police after he witnessed the canoe capsize.
The 2 of the guys that fell out, they must have went straight into the island, but the one guy, he started going alongside the island, splashing, trying to swim or something, and evidently he was able to grab onto something.
The 3 Upper St. Clair high school students